Okay, everyone. Once again, I'm Zeri, Persian pen name on AO3. Um, it has now been 1 week since I started taking testosterone. Uh, I haven't noticed any changes. My face is the same, my voice is the same, as far as I can tell. That's why I'm doing this. One thing that did happen that I noticed a day last week, it was like my head was full of bees and cotton. Um, Spouse was asking me, hey, what do you want for dinner? I was like, I have forgotten every food I've ever known. I have nothing. There's no answer in me. Um, and I ended up messaging a friend who also transitioned, like way before me. And he was like, dude, that's the menopause, which I don't know why that hadn't occurred to me. But yeah, that's apparently what that is. So, brain fog. It's only happened the once, so that's not so bad. It has been a hell of a week, though. Mother-in-law's out of town for a funeral. The other day, spouse woke me up like, hey, I need you to drive me to the ER. And less than 24 hours later, he was down one gallbladder. So that was a thing. Oh, and I finished my sweater. Let's see if you can. Do, 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 do. Very proud of it. Started it in September this year, I think. Yeah. It's like the third sweater I've ever made, and I'm obscenely proud. All right. But for what we're doing today, once again, going to be reading a story blind, because that's always fun. Yeah, this is the one I wanted to do. All right. So this is a story by my friend Measured Words. Yes, I am reading my friend's stories first. That just seems the way to go. And also I can poke them and go, look, I did your story. And then they get excited. Hopefully they get excited. All right, so this story is called There's No Blood in Bone. It's by Measured Words for teen and up audiences. Uh, the fandom is Dungeons and Dragons role playing game. I don't think this is one of the ones for one of our games. No, not that I can think of. It was for Yuletide 2015. Little over 3,000 words, so won't be too long. Okay. Oh, and yeah, definitely this time going to remember to have a drink because I will need one. All right. There's no blood in bone. Solana came to you for help, but you sent her away. You're a baker now, you told her, and that's all. She's gone now, giving up on you at least for the time being, but perhaps she has succeeded in unsettling you some. Elves are not prone to panic over nothing, and she's been overseeing these lands in her own way for a while. This wizard she spoke of is only a sign. You can tell yourself you're not interested in the fall of empires, except you know what it means. The disruption will calm, but there will be scars. You're not sure you're ready to handle more scars. Merit is your home. You've lived here for a very long time. Everyone in town knows you, even though you're not the only baker. You're not ambitious, but you are consistent, reliable. It's been this way for over 50 years now, and you've settled into this life. You've hardly had to have a conversation with anyone who lives here that wasn't about bread or the weather or something else inane in decades. That's how you like it. It means you don't have to think. You've always found Solana challenging. She first came to you years ago with a group of adventurers. They tracked you to this town, but she's the one who picked you out. She wanted your help then, too. In the end, you told them what they wanted to know, just to make them go away. You didn't want them threatening the life you'd built. Pardon. You didn't want to give in to the resentment either. You don't want to feel anything. You think Solana understands, but this only lends weight to her plea. When you told her no this time, Solana told you that she couldn't afford to leave empty-handed. There are others in town she could ask. Not as powerful as you, of course, but better help than nothing. You know that she meant Merit. The girl, not the town. She's a sorceress, which some say means she has draconic heritage. You're not sure what you think of that. But if it is true, you know it must come from her mother's side. Her mother is an outsider, an historian, who married into the town. She's worked hard to be accepted, and you're not sure she's quite managed it. People respect her, absolutely, but they'll never think of her as one of their own. She could never stop being herself enough to really blend in. Merit, the girl, is accepted because she was born here. There's a story about the town's founding. Elthric was a hero with a band of followers. He heard of a valley where two green dragons lived, and he decided he would slay them and claim the land for his people. He was partly successful. He slew the one, catching it surprised and away from its mate. But the mate, furious, slew him in return. Elthric's wife, possessed by her own vengeful fury, finished the job. Her name was Merit, and the name stuck. It's not a true story, but it is a popular one, and you've never corrected it. There have been many women named Merit here, and there are likely to be more. This one is the only one you can recall who's been a sorceress. Draconic blood. The next day, Merit comes to see you. You weren't expecting that. It's late in the evening. Your shop is closed. This is what you say when you answer her urgent knocking, but she insists she wants to talk to you. You wonder if it would attract more interest to let her in, or send her away, and decide that Merit isn't likely to leave you to leave you be in quiet. You feel a flicker of something like annoyance, but you quash it as the door swings open and she steps inside. He'd never spoken with her much, no more than required for basic small-town courtesy. She's quite young, only 19, with long dark hair. Her eyes are a brilliant shimmering green. You can actually feel her power. She's scrutinizing you, but you're not sure what, if anything, she might sense in return. I'm sorry, she says. I know Solana came to see you, but she wouldn't tell me anything. It's so frustrating. She's the only person I've ever met who knows anything about magic, and she won't teach me anything. You shrug, as though you're not sure what this has to do with you. Druids keep their own ways, is all you say. I know, it's just that if she came to see you, I thought maybe she came to you for help, too, and maybe you knew something? She looks hopeful, though her exuberance is running out of steam. You're impassive. I don't know why you thought that, you say. I feel... Merit sets her jaw. She's that age, you suppose. I know there's more going on than anyone will tell me. Mother is just always full of hints without saying anything because she doesn't want to upset things. And Solana only tells me what's useful to her. I'm tired of it, that's all. I'm a baker. You shake your head, wishing she would go away. Except you're sure she must sense enough from you not to accept that particular truth. She doesn't. Merit furrows her brow. Mother came here because she was looking for information on her family tree. She stayed because she found something, but she won't tell me anything more. I know you've been here a long time. Do you know anything about that? This one you can answer honestly, and you shake your head again. Merit presses on. So young, so eager for secrets and mysteries. You can understand that, but would rather not get tangled up in this mess. My name, my whole name, is Merit Hanway. Does that mean anything to you? You're caught off guard, and for a brief moment all your barriers waver. What lurks beyond them is still too much, still too overwhelming. After a moment of silence, you find your strength. You need to go. Merit backs away, and you notice that her eyes have gone large, whites showing around the green, pupils large and dark. Once she's out the door, she turns to run. Slowly, you uncurl your fingers, trying to reclaim your dispassion. You think she might be the first person here to be afraid of you in a very long time. And the best you hope will come out of it is nothing. The next day is quiet, and you're grateful. In the morning, it's just you and the bread. You shape the loaves from dough that has been resting since the day before. You make yours from a yeast culture that's older than some of the people in town. It has a sharp sourness to it, and it sells well. You make the pastries and start mixing dough for the next few days. You feed your culture, certain that your troubles will pass in time. Everything passes in time, surely, given enough of it. You try to push away the thoughts that Merit Hanway, has stirred up. You allow yourself to feel bad for her, tucked away in this tiny nowhere place, but her problems have nothing to do with you. Solana comes back that night. There's no point pretending that you're not home, not awake, so you let her in again. You don't say much, and she sits quietly with you for a while. When she does speak, she talks about the world, the things she has learned and seen and done. She doesn't say anything about wizards or empires, and while you could hear their machinations behind her words, you understand that this is not her intention. Like you, she prefers to live alone, apart from her people's enclaves in the forest ringing the mountains, and prefers the companionship of animals. You're one of her exceptions, like the adventurers she used to travel with. These days, she's wise enough not to get drawn into most petty troubles. The world goes on, but it's nice to hear the stories. Before she leaves, she tells you she's worried about you. You go to sleep. Sleep is a refuge, allowing you to turn off your mind for a time. It's been a while since you've considered slipping into a longer, deeper rest, but that's never helped before. When you wake up, you still feel the same, empty and dull. You tend to the bread. You know exactly what it needs from you. That afternoon, after you've sold out your wares for the day, you have another visitor. Even though you've never spoken much before, you know who she is, just as you know who everyone else is in town. Merit's mother. Her name is Galanre. She's very nervous, standing on the doorstep of your shop, and you're certain now that she knows who you are. You admit her as well, though you feel weary, ready to be done with all disturbances of your peace. She's come to apologize. You're not very interested in the gesture, but she confirms some of your suspicions. She came here researching her family's heritage. Having heard somewhere the myth of the town's founding, she came to see what she could make of it. The version of the tale she relates is much more accurate. She certainly had better sources. Her daughter was named as an honor to an aunt several generations past. Galanri claims she never meant to intrude, but you can smell the lie, even if it isn't intentional. The distinction between curious and nosy isn't of great interest to you either, especially when the effects are indistinguishable. You don't tell Galanri this, though. You tell her to go back to her own life and leave you out of it. Your memories weigh heavily on you after all these visits. Your shield of apathy is heavy, and the fear of what will happen if it fails erodes your strength. If your heart is a void, how fragile are you at your core? You know these days mean little in the scheme of things. The world will move on no matter what you do or how you feel. A day is nothing, except that you have to live through them one by one. Sleep eludes you this night. If you have to live through it as well, you decide to give in. You allow this little weakness with a lie of your own, that you're building yourself up, grounding yourself, recalling your purpose. You leave the house, but not by any conventional means. You know exactly where you want to go, and your will and magic are sufficient to carry you there. There's a hill of sorts, just off of the main paths that lead away from the town. Few give it much thought, but if they did, it might occur that there are no other such features in the landscape, or that it's too even to be completely natural. It's grown over with trees and brush, which make it difficult to observe. The occasional astute locals who have given it thought, and the even fewer who ever consider these details in conjunction with their town's mythology, were dissuaded from testing any theories. Very few people have ever been inside. Solana is one of them, and you're only briefly surprised to find her waiting for you. The hill is a barrow. Magically shaped stone vaults up over the bones that lie within, all that remains of a body once carefully arranged in rest. Now the brittle scales litter the floor, their brilliance rendered dull with age and dust. Wings that overlaid her back lie intermixed with ribs and vertebrae. You could take the time to sort it out, and you've told yourself before that you should, that you will, but you can never bring yourself to do more than reach your hand, the soft flesh you wear now, that has been yours in one form or another for so very long that it's begun to feel natural, and lay it on her shoulder. You do this now, remembering. Solana does nothing to disturb you. Her presence keeps you from falling too far into reminiscence, but you can still see in your mind's eye those great wings stretched taut, carried by wind and magic. Meritanwe was always faster, bolder than you. You don't look at her, but you speak to Solana. What do you know of the empire of Faya Azalun? The Empire of Sea and Sun? I've heard of it. In my grandmother's time, her power was quite extensive, though she was never able to wrest control over the Forest of Screams from the Altenyi elves, and the Poisoned Ocean Rebellion put an end to her plans to invade further east over our mountains. I've heard that the coasts have never recovered, that there are places where the oceans still boil and beaches of black sand where nothing has lived in it for 500 years. Scars, you say. And then you tell her more, because you still remember why she came to you for help. Faya al-Zalun was a powerful warlock, who had made pacts for her power with creatures from the farthest outer planes, whose power leaked into this place through rifts deep below the oceans. Not many understood this. Most who fled her sought only to escape a petty, grasping tyrant. If the people of Heul hadn't sacrificed themselves to stop her when they did, there would have been nowhere left to go. The resistance of the Altenyi would have meant nothing. Solana is an elf. She takes time to consider her answer. Then the people of Heul understood that nothing is hopeless. Meritanwe thought that as well. That's why the two of you left. It was not, as you'd thought at first, that she didn't understand all that was happening. I thought we should go to the inner planes, but there was always time for that retreat, and we came here instead. We didn't know the pass was so easy to access, or maybe we would have gone somewhere else. Not even very far, just far enough. You know the area now, and you know precisely what better choices you could have made. You didn't hear Solana move, but you can sense her behind you. You turn to look as she reaches out, placing a hand on your arm. You can't remember the last time anyone touched you so deliberately. You want to slap her for her impudence. You want to turn away and disappear forever. You want to scream and flatten the world around you. You want to turn towards her and you do nothing. It's so easy after all this time. Solana slides her hand along your arm until her fingers curl around yours, pulling them gently away from Meritanwe. You're shaking. She doesn't let go of your hand. She's gone, she says. You don't know what that means. Your voice is shaking too. Meritanwe is gone and you can't follow. You waited for the end to come after she died, but the world saved itself and went on. You're right, I can't. But the world shouldn't have to lose you both. She reaches up to brush your face. This is unnatural. I let them live for me. You mean the humans, the town and its people. None of this would have come to be if you hadn't allowed it. I killed Ilthayarig. It was so easy. It shouldn't have happened. He shouldn't have been able to hurt her. He caught her off guard somehow. I wasn't here, but I felt it. Suddenly she was gone, part of you torn away, an emptiness filled with rage. His wife's name was Alana. I tore him apart in front of her. She had no weapon of her own. She threw a stone at me. A stone. I might have killed her, but I could see into her heart. We were the same. I raised my head and I screamed until there was nothing left in me. Why did you stay with them? When the world didn't end, I wanted to see what they became. You still felt things then, grief and anger and resentment. You didn't want to leave her either, and it was easier if they thought you were one of them, to be left alone. There were times. Okay, so, much like my hair, the end of the video was cut off. So here is me finishing that story of There Is No Blood and Bone by Measured Words. Why did you stay with them? When the world didn't end, I wanted to see what they became. You still felt things then, grief and anger and resentment. You didn't want to leave her either, and it was easier if they thought you were one of them to be left alone. There were times when you considered elaborate revenges, ways to wound them all as deeply as you'd been wounded, but there was no point. You'd killed the one responsible, and that hadn't helped, so why try? Why try anything? Nothing helped, so nothing was what you did. You drifted along on the course of their lives, engaging minimally to provide minor services like bread, clothes, smithing. I couldn't leave her. Solana squeezes your fingers. You're almost equal in height in this form, though she's more finely built. Her eyes are green too, a deep moss green that suits her well. You've seen them before, but never really noticed. Her hair is brown, short and practical, and it accentuates the sharp angles of her face. It's just observation, that's all. She speaks. Meritonwe isn't here. Her voice is firm. Maybe it's time to try something else. Solana helps you lay out the bones. She doesn't touch them, though you think she might if you asked. But she stays with you, and when you need it, she's there to rest her hand on your back and call you back from the darkness. It takes you 3 nights. During the day, you go about your normal routine of breads and customers, but something has changed, is changing. Your shield is cracked, and you're having to learn to deal with feeling again. Grief, of course, sadness and anger. Even the small things feel huge. Annoyance at the old man who tries to cheat you regularly. The pleasure of exchanges with customers who, if you'd allowed it, would have long been your favorites for their thoughtfulness and courtesy. Suddenly, they seem like little treasures to be hoarded. It'll be difficult to leave, but these are dangerous times for you, and you don't dare to stay. On the 4th day, you tell them, the ones you like well enough to bother with, that the store is closing and you're leaving town. You've been through this before, changing lives, but this is different. You offer them a portion of your starter and tell them how to feed it. One woman, a mother with small children and a useless husband, asks you if anyone is taking over the store? You tell her no and wish her luck. The town won't miss you. You were never really there. You're closing your shop for the last time. The strangeness of breaking your routine is familiar, and you try to think about that and not what comes next. You've never liked uncertainty, but in a way it is still Meritonwe cajoling you to do something against your nature. Your feelings on that are complicated, and you push them away unexamined, as has been your habit for a long time now. When Merit, the girl, comes to your shop, she finds you doing nothing, thinking about nothing, instead of doing or thinking about any of the things that require your attention. She's a distraction at least, welcome or otherwise. Merit sits beside you nervously and asks if you'll teach her magic. You tell her you're leaving town with Solana, but this does not deter her. She declares she will come. You promise nothing, though you already know that you'll do it. You've been so many other things. Why not a teacher? She is a relation, after all, though a distant one. You tell her it will be dangerous, though, because that is true. There's a wizard, after all, searching for the key to the star map of Faya Azalun. The end. Let's see, the notes are a thank you to her betas, Kawa and Neri. Neri's another friend of mine. Any remaining errors she says are on her. The title is from a song of the name by the Poppy family, which follows a similar theme. She likes some of the other implications of it here, though. In case anyone is wondering, the dragons in question here are emerald dragons, and she says she did more poking through old monster manuals to find a type that made sense than was really strictly necessary. Yeah, that sounds about right, from what I know of measured words, which is a lot. We've been friends for a while. I really like this one, clearly. I mean, yes, I'm biased because she's my friend, and yes, I'm biased because it's a D&D story, and we have played D&D together for almost 20 years now. I might read one of the ones later on that's one of the stories from one of our games. That'll be fun. I can introduce everybody here to Roscoe. I really liked, for creatures like dragons that live so long, just how long grief lasts. Like, just comparatively. I like the not dissociation, but not dissociation that she had going on there. I'm not really clear on which of them Merit the girl is related to. I mean, I think the implication is that Merit the girl is related to Meriton Way the dragon. I mean, clearly they can turn into humans whenever they want. They can... Anyway, I really liked it. Read more of her stuff. It's very good. It's linked in the notes. I'm going to see if I can figure out how to stick this recording onto the end of the old recording so that it's just one recording and you don't have to like stop and restart and such like to get the whole story. So I'm going to go try and do that, and I will see you all in slightly less than a week.